Some called me a madman, others called me a prophet, but damn does it feel good to basically get your theory confirmed, especially in a show that doesn't have a source material. So you can't have those people who try to say, oh, you just read the source material, you read a wiki, because anytime an anime only actually makes theories and they become right, there's always those people who say, no, you knew. It's like, no, it's basic deductions. But a show as wild as this show has been arguably one of the most fun to theory craft for, and it feels really good to seemingly be almost bang on with what and honestly it felt like a select handful early on were feeling, because it wasn't a common thing at first, but over the weeks, the Yoka theories and the idea of 7G and everything happening being under her influence felt more and more validated. And after the end of episode 8 of Train to the End of the World, it's pretty much all but guaranteed. She is the witch of Ikebukuro, and I think without the stuff that happened with that whole Alice in Wonderland style TV show turned evil, especially given the flashback of what we saw her showing our girl, it's like, I think I'm probably 90 to 95%, 100% of what's going on here. Like, I'm 95% sure, but I'm still missing a couple of small breadcrumbs, but it feels so good to be proven right here, because this has been one of my favorite shows to cover, and honestly, I do get more and more annoyed that more people aren't watching it, because this is the type of show that deserves to have the highest rated Reddit threads and, you know, the most views on anyone's channel, because this show is actually pure creative and is actually planned out and thought out rather than just trying to out-weird itself. This was probably the weirdest episode for me. It was fast-paced, balls-to-the-walls insane, but it had a purpose and a mission, and I think they nailed it. Now, of course, I have full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see my full uncut thought to this or any of these episodes. It's going to be over there exclusively, so we gotta talk about Yoka. Just in case you're newer to the channel, you haven't heard the theories over the videos, very early on, like 4 episodes into this, I thought, because we know Yoka pressed the 7G button, and ultimately, things went weird afterwards. It seems, as we've gone through the different places and learned more and more about these characters, is that everything is influenced by Yoka's perception. And even if it's not every single detail is exactly the way she envisions it, everything's connected via her mind from what we can understand. And in this episode, they actually really reinforce that she might have active control as it stands, not just when she initially pressed it, but even as it currently is with their day-to-day life. So the idea that this area that was kind of like Alice in Wonderland themed based around that show, it was okay and then it wasn't okay, and it almost felt like Yoka, from what I'm understanding, felt an act of betrayal, and she's getting more and more pissed off maybe as the days go on, and she's corrupting something that used to mean a lot to who she thought was her best friend, but then obviously felt betrayed when she ran off to Ikebukuro, so maybe she's trying to remove those memories and stuff like that. It's hard to say the exact motivations and reasoning, and that's why I'm saying I'm not 100% here. I'm like 90 to 95% sure what's going on, but it's very, very interesting, because after last week's episode, most people probably assumed Yoka was the witch. It'd be hard not to imagine that. So to have the confirmation now, it's nice that they're not trying to drag out a kind of like a hidden plot point when it's pretty obvious who it is, but the idea of what that witch is seemingly capable of does add credibility to the whole 7G incident, and honestly, the reunion between friends is gonna be spicy. I don't know when they'll actually reach Ikebukuro. I'm thinking episode 10. This is a 12-episode anime, and I don't see it going past that, especially because it's an original. And the thing that I said around episode 2 or 3 was that this would either be the best or worst show of the season, because with how crazy it wanted to be, usually you would trip at one point, and then that would cause a snowball effect and have you tumble down Mount Everest. Somehow, they're still sprinting up Mount Everest, and I feel like by episode 10 or 11, they're going to be chilling on the top, and it's just going to have a great finish. I actually have full confidence in this show to stick the landing as it stands. This show has obviously the potential to go a little too crazy and step on its own feet, but there's something about how an episode that was like 3 episodes worth of content, and they purposely made it fast-paced. It was like every other second they were throwing craziness at you, and they were rushing, they were sprinting, they were just trying to get through so much, but it kind of worked because the area they're in was just batshit crazy. I had such a fun time watching them run through Little Miss Piggy Market as you have all these soldiers casually talking about the little magical girl people they've killed, and the idea of the idea of turning a shogi board into what we had was so cool, because as they killed the pieces, which were the people trying to chase them down, they get slammed into a gravestone and turned into it. such a creative thing. And the fact that all the pigs are like, okay, but if you're not going to take care of us, who will? And they're like, I don't know. And they just left their ass. That has to be one of the funniest and cruelest things that I would 100% do. They're actually better than me because I would have left them for dead from minute one because I'm not dealing with the craziness. But the fact that they cleared it up and said, take care of yourselves, and then they dipped was hilarious. But the end of the episode says it all. They are very concerned because now they have the confirmation that the Witch of Ikebukuro is Yoka. And they're probably thinking a lot about things they've seen along the way and probably stuff they've talked about with Yoka and how they can now start seeing the influence of what maybe has happened with 7G. Now, maybe not to the same extent that an anime viewer has because we have the ability to theorycraft because it's not reality for us, but it's a heavy thing nonetheless. And the reunion between, I think, the Central 2, which had the initial argument which caused the separation, is going to be spicy. I still think Ikebukuro is going to look relatively normal, like it's not going to be the craziest of crazy, but once they start talking, that's when I think things are going to get crazy. Because initially I thought it was just, you know, she pressed the button and it connected to her mind and things got shaped from it. But now I'm starting to realize that it could be something actively that she can control, and if so, we could actually have a final battle, so to speak, if they really wanted to go crazy. But either way, it does feel good because initially when I brought up the whole like, hey, you know, it kind of feels like Yoka's mind connected to the world and it shaped things, there was actually a decent amount of pushback I had for that, and it really felt like there was less than 12 of us online who were kind of on that train of thought, so to speak, no pun intended. But it's just felt more and more validated as it goes on. And could I still be wrong by the end? Sure. I mean, I'm open to. But it does feel good to get a theory right because, you know, you're not always going to be super bang on. Maybe you'll have a general idea. But, you know, I do want to pat myself on the back because for a show that very few people are even talking about, the fact that I've had such a fun time, it's just like, I feel so good about this show, and I feel a little proud of myself being able to be like, you know, I caught on to this a little earlier than many people, and it's like, it's nice because like, this is kind of what's disappointing is that this show had even 20 to 30% more viewership, man. The amount of theory crafting talks we could have had over the weeks would have been great, but really the only theory crafting that was out there is like the main theory that I propelled, and that was about it. Either you thought it made sense or you didn't. There was no extra theories online because just people weren't watching it, but I definitely think this show will become a cult classic over time. I definitely think it's going to grow a larger and larger fan base as time goes on, but I guess time will tell. Also, I forgot to mention this in the initial recording, but I need to mention this. The idea that basically each of them has their own regrets. One killed a badger when she was young. One obviously has the fear of, you know, not being able to change her dad from leaving. The idea of obviously, well, being responsible for obviously Yoka leaving. The fact that someone couldn't save someone from drowning. Like, all of those regrets are so fascinating and just adds so much depth to each of their characters and how it influences the story. Now, of course, those are my feelings, and I'd love to know what everyone thought. Maybe you still completely disagree. You think there's more to Yoka and everything's going on, but let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and Haywire over there also give you a video shout out. So today, we have Renee Benhoff, Adalassum, Ert Swanson, Ike Ickley, Jan Peterson, and Hune. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. Have a good one.